ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवमुपास्महे। Now, to us in today's world, what is the advantage of reciting Nama Sankirtana? I have told a lot about the spiritual aspects of it. Now, isn't flattery a negative thing? That's what we are told in today's world, right? So just go on speaking about Bhagavan, you're the greatest, Bhagavan, you do this, Bhagavan, you do that. How can that give us a lot of things? Now think about it. Eulogizing Bhagavan and flattery are two different things. Flattery is done to a person who does not have a trait which we try to amplify or tell a lie or something like that. With Bhagavan, his qualities are numerous that even the Upanishads say that we cannot completely explain the greatness of Bhagavan. Leave alone flattery. We cannot even say what is there to a very, very small percentage. So Bhagavan is beyond all this. So why are we doing this? It is because we know where we are at any point of time. Sometimes when people tell us that we are doing something very well, over a period of time, there is this concept of ego which keeps increasing in humans. Ahankara. Bhagavan says ahankara is a main enemy for our growth. So if we should not have ahankara, what should we do? We should tell others that they are better than us. If we identify a person who is better than us, our ego will reduce. It's like having a longer line drawn so that this line looks shorter. It is not to undermine ourselves, but it is to know that there are so many players here. So many are good in their respective aspects so that we have our feet on the ground. But then when we praise others, what happens? Are we not feeding their ego? And many times it may not be 100% truth. Asatya Vakyam is not a correct thing to do. We have to call a spade a spade. We cannot exaggerate things and say, that is when it becomes a flattery. So to avoid the mistake of flattery, at the same time, not permit ourselves to get into this trap of ego, who is the safest person to praise? Bhagavan. So when we praise Bhagavan, he is omnipresent. He is omnipotent. Bhagavan is Satyasandha. Bhagavan had done this. We feel that he is great. We are subservient to him. Our ahankara is always subdued. So we are able to handle our main enemy by saying that Bhagavan is great. I'm subservient to Bhagavan. So this is one very, very important trait that is required. And many times when we contemplate on the qualities of Bhagavan, I was just now saying, Bhagavan is a Satyasandha. Rama always speaks the truth. We keep thinking about this. There is a situation where if I tell the truth, the consequence is not very pleasant. But if I tell a lie, I can get away from it temporarily. Okay. So many will be tempted to tell a lie to just get away from that situation. We keep thinking, we keep contemplating on Bhagavan's Kalyana Gunas all the time. Bhagavan Rama is a Satyasandha. Bhagavan Rama is a Satyasandha. When such a situation comes up, what happens? We remember that Rama always tells the truth. We are subservient to Rama. How can we do something which is not going to please him, right? So we will gain the courage to stand by what we believe. So Bhagavan's qualities slowly, gradually starts rubbing on us. And these qualities, when imbibed, enhance our Atma Guna. So that is the process we are looking forward to. When we keep repeatedly contemplating on the qualities of Bhagavan, those qualities start rubbing on us. Have you all ever attempted walking on a grass surface? When we go to villages or developing places, sometimes there will not be any proper path. People will start walking on the grass. After a period of time, the path will automatically come where there is no grass. You'll start seeing the sand. The path gets laid. Similarly, our brain does not have these connections when we do not recite Bhagavan's name or contemplate on it. When we start repeating his names, thinking of his qualities all the time, these get established in our brain that over a period, whatever we do, it will automatically be what our ancestors would have done at that time, what Bhagavan would have done at that time. So all those actions automatically, take its particular role. So it is like the path which is getting established in our mind. So whenever we want to imbibe certain qualities, we start contemplating on those qualities of Bhagavan. So the Atma Gunas have a enhancement. Okay. So finally, the purpose of every part of our body, we learned in the Suprabhatam, is to be of service to Bhagavan. For our eyes, we have a darshan of Bhagavan. Our ears, we have to hear his story. What is the purpose of our tongue? To keep repeating his names. Okay. So mind, keep contemplating on him. So these are some of the reasons why we should keep repeating Bhagavan's names. In fact, Antima Smriti is supposed to be very, very important, which means when we are leaving this body, the Shastras say, whatever is our thought at that point of time, our next birth will be based on that. We will face the consequence of our thinking towards the end of our life. So, we are in the final stages and people usually come and say, do you remember me? Do you remember me? And all that, right? But if we remember them, what is going to be the consequence? But we have to remember Bhagavan at that point of time. There was one great rishi by name Bharata, who was a great sannyasi. But towards the end of his life, he got distracted with a deer. His next birth was as a deer. Bhagavata Purana says this. So we cannot afford to get distracted at that point of time. How can we ensure that the final thought that we have is Bhagavat Chintanam? It is only by making it a habit throughout our life. When we wake up, whatever is surrounding us, associate it with Bhagavan. Start the day by repeating Bhagavan's name. Any activity you do, put a morsel of food, repeat Bhagavan's name, Govinda, eat it. Whatever activity we do, we see the sunrise, associated to all what we learned in the Suprabhatam. You see a flower blooming, how beautiful it will be on Bhagavan. Whatever we see, associate it with Bhagavan. Then what happens? Our life gets intertwined with Bhagavad Anubhava, that towards the end of the life, it becomes like a muscular memory. The memory is at a cellular level where whatever we do gets associated to Bhagavan. So that is our effort. We will put in our efforts towards that. Bhagavad Gita. Let's see how it goes on, right? So with this, we move on to the first sloka. So Bhagavan has now opened his eyes. We are now going to have a darshan of Bhagavan. The first sloka starts as Kamala Kucha Chuchuka Kunkumato Niyatarunitatula Nilatano Kamalayatalochana Lokapate Vijayi Bhava Venkata Shailapate. The usual way this beautiful sloka is recited is Kamala Kucha Chuchuka Kunkumato Niyatarunitatula Nilatano Kamalayatalochana Lokapate Vijayi Bhava Venkata Shailapate. So this sloka uses a vritti which is called as a Totaka vritti. The sloka has a pattern. This pattern is called as the Totaka vritti, which has 12 aksharas. 12 syllables every line it has. So it has 4 lines, which means 12 times 4. We have 48 syllables in a particular sloka. Okay, that is called as the Totaka vritti. Earlier, when we learnt the slokas from Bhagavad Gita, we used the Anushtup Chandas, which had 8 aksharas. It was 8 into 4. Now we are learning 12 into 4. Okay. Now, if you observe this beautiful sloka, what happens is you will always have two small syllables followed by one big syllable. So two small syllables followed by one big syllables. Kama, la, pucha, chu, chuka, kung. So like that it will go. So small, small, big, small, small, big, 1, 2, 3, like that. That is the pattern that will happen. So this adds to the beauty of this sloka. The small, small, big pattern, a category which is called as the sagana. There are many ganas. So it has small, small, big sagana, 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 sagana. There will be 4 saganas in every row in this Totaka Vritti. So that is the pattern that will happen. Okay. In fact, one sloka, Adharam Madhuram Vadanam Madhuram Nayanam Madhuram Hasitam Madhuram, that also follows the Totaka Vritti.